Hello, everybody. My name is Carlos Bausa, and I'm the head of sustainability of Hadid Architects. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm an architect, and I'm working in Hadid Architects as the head of sustainability, leading the new strategies that we are implementing to deliver net zero. My work here in Hadid started because I have a specialty in different areas. One is computational design, as well was introduced earlier by Alison. It's a way of designing with data so we can create more buildings and complex geometries in a way that we use programming. And at the same time, I'm specialized on something called certification for sustainability. So as you will probably be aware, even if you're an architect, all the industries need to follow certain certifications to basically say that they are like making buildings or products that are going to meet certain standards. Okay. But today I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. I don't want to really dive too much into data. I just want to tell you how we started to think about net zero and how we started to create a team around the topic of sustainability inside of Hadid Architects. Some of the things that I started to look at this company when I arrived is like there are lots of challenges that when you start in a new, let's say, way of thinking, in a way that you're trying to address carbon neutrality or reductions or improvements in the way that the buildings are behaving in the area of sustainability, there are many challenges that you need to look at, especially when you are trying to work with people who have a different background or a different type of concept about how to deliver sustainability. So when I started in the company, I was like just a young guy coming from another company that is called Foster & Partners. So Foster & Partners is a company that has a totally different logic of design to Hadid. If you know Hadid, it's a company that is really working on creating like very fluid shapes with a very formal, like very specific formal language and high complexity on the way that they are delivering construction and design. So when I started working with them, I felt like, well, I'm working with some of the top designers of the world and people who have like 20 years more experience than I have here. So how can we start thinking on improving the way we are delivering sustainability in a company that has been working in this area for so long? And then I started looking at the different challenges that I could find, like also the different gap in between generations, different people working with different mindsets. And at the same time, how can we combine all these computational tools that the company is so specialized in to deliver something that can be improved in this area? At the same time, how do you convince the clients that a building like the ones that we are designing in Hadid are going to be sustainable, they're going to be net zero, at the same time are going to be constructed and built within a budget? So I started looking at different ways, and I was thinking to myself, how am I going to inspire these people to do something different? I was just one person, and the reason when I arrived to this company, I was hired because they wanted to find ways of improvements in the workflows. How can we make things a little bit more optimized? But sustainability was not the first thing that they told me to do. But when I look at all the things that the company was doing, I basically told them, you are doing sustainability with the engineers, but you're not doing sustainability with the designers. We need to try to meet both. It's not that we are going to have the engineers designing, but if we want to really have a more efficient product, you don't need to think with an engineering mindset and put that thing up front in the design area. And then that idea was kind of welcomed initially by several groups, but not for all of them. So I think when you're starting from the scratch in a company that has like 600 employees, everybody has a different opinion on how to do things. And myself as a kind of like person that was totally outside of the company, when I arrived from the first year, I told them, okay, we can try to make things, but I will try to work first with a group of people that are going to be the champions on this topic, and we'll come back to the rest of the company later. So first we need to show results, and later we need to see how to implement them across the whole company. And my strategy was to start working with several examples. So I started putting together on my own several ways of how to improve the workflows. And I started kind of talking to everybody in a company, so of 600 people. So for 9 months, I spent almost like half of my day talking to people, and the other half of the day trying to produce things that could be done in a different way. So for that company, it was a little bit like, kind of like a different mind of kind of approaching to the design. So I told them, if you're looking at the design aspects and you don't put together some feedback loops in the middle, it's going to be very hard that we can manage to make an optimization. So just look at car industry, for example, or aviation industry. They put upfront the engineering to end up with a design that is highly optimized. So why shouldn't we do the same in architecture? Why don't we put all these engineering tools right up front, even before talking to the engineers that are working with us? So it was a little bit like a different approach to a company that is working with a highly artistic, let's say, design workflow. And then I started to put together not only the workflows, but also concepts that they could think and they can use as a background, as an inspiration. And that idea started to be kind of welcomed by the teams and by the company. And without really realizing, intuitively, I was applying something that's called the law of diffusion of innovation. That's something that if you are like, it's a strategy that was proposed back in the 60s on how new ideas and new products can be introduced in the market. And basically, if you find a group that can influence the rest of the company, you don't really need to teach person by person everything. Because they told me, oh, let's make video tutorials, let's make lots of trainings, let's put everybody aware, let's make everybody aware of this topic. I said, like, no, if we do that thing, it's gonna be too much time. So why don't we just select a group of champions in the company and start working with them, and I will put like another team doing a service that's gonna help them to understand how the buildings can be improved with simulation. And that thing, we started from a company who was never working with such a workflow to the point that in less than a year, most of the teams inside of the company started to adopt these systems, and they wanted to know more. They wanted to know more how to do their simulation, they wanted to know how to apply all this logic. And basically, the way everything started, because I put together like 15 people in a room, and I throw them all these papers that I have there to tell them, guys, this is what we can do. We put simulation up front in the workflows of design. And thanks to these early adopters, we started to see how the idea started to spread around the company. And more people started to embrace the idea of optimization through design and through simulation. But at a certain point, the same feedback loop that I was using for the projects, we applied to our own ideas. I had a team at the time, so let's say from this slide to this one here is like 3 years. So during 3 years, we were like systematically working with a team of 5 people that they were like architects that I trained to become experts in sustainability. We realized that we were not having the impact that we were expecting to have. And then we organized a very big symposium inside the company, an internal event, where basically we wanted to make everybody participate, to show the results of what they were doing with all this data and see, the numbers that we had there. But we realized because we were targeting reductions on embodied carbon, reductions on energy demand, improvements on certification, we were still not getting there. Our ambition was too low. So we realized that we had to go to the next level. We had to target something called net zero, that everybody's aware of it. But in construction, net zero is something hard to achieve. But I could sense when we just basically released the idea, I used this picture in the background and basically explained to everybody, guys, we need to go to net zero. But they were afraid because they thought this will change the way design is going to be developed. The biggest fear is that because the companies delivering buildings like this, they thought that they would need to develop boxes. They would need to make very boring buildings in a way that they would need to kill in what they believe there was this sort of an artistic approach to geometry. And I told them, well, if that's your fear, when I look at this picture, and I put that picture on the background in a presentation, this is a trip that we did to Dubai, and I told them, I see that you guys are like an innovative company. So you're a company who has been doing this for 30 years. You have been doing innovation. You are the ones who delivered stuff like that 30 years ago. And nobody believed that you could do something like that. So if you're afraid that things need to change, that you need to create new buildings and new shapes or new ideas, yes, you need to embrace it. We need to change. But doesn't mean that you need to give up on what you believe, that is this. But we just need to find a way to introduce new concepts to deliver energy efficiency and net zero and put that thing up front in our projects. So before talking about inspiration, we talk about net zero. And that idea started to kind of like get introduced into the company around like 6 months ago. And thanks to that, we realized that it was more important to really connect to the people and tell them that if you're believing on something, you don't need to kill it, you don't need to but you need to transform it. We need to add more value into the topics that you really believe in. And that's the reason because everybody's here. I mean, Zaha Hadid was the first woman on getting like a Pritzker of architecture. That is one of the most prestigious awards in the world for an architect. And she did it because she transformed the history of architecture by delivering something like that. But the world has changed. And the world is asking right now different types of things. It's asking for us to be more responsible in the way we are making buildings. And we really need to add this extra level of complexity that is net zero and find new ways of delivering it. Then magic happens. The same way that we apply the law of diffusion and innovation for introducing the first workflows, the net zero idea started to pick up by most of the teams inside of the company. And within 3 months, we got like 3 of the very first kind of Zaha buildings that are targeting net zero, like one of these ones here, which is going to get built soon. And the idea started to spread, and we hope that this is something that is going to, go further, and we'll be able to have like more projects like the ones that we had earlier, targeting reductions that will target net zero. And I feel it's the work for everybody working in architecture. We really need to work not on trying to reduce embodied carbon, not to reduce operational demand or get higher certifications. We really need to target net zero today, because we will never be able to get there in 2050. So why to wait in 2050 or 2030? Why not to start today? And this is what we're doing now. Thanks to that, we realized that the company started to believe that they could do something else without killing the idea of delivering like iconic design. And this is what I told them. I'm here not to just validate your workflow. I'm here just to try to help you to envision that you can do something else. And even if my background is different, I feel that's something that architectural companies can do, not only us. So in a way, you can understand from what I'm saying that my work hasn't been just typical engineering type of work. I've been here, and I think this company has trust me, because our team and myself, we have been able to tell them that we can visualize a net zero future in a company where nobody thought this could be possible. And we said that because we know that Zaha is a famous company for delivering design, but it was not famous for delivering sustainability up front. But now this is changing, and this is changing because they are trying to think differently. I feel if you want to influence a company, you really need to change the way they think first about themselves and try to convince them that this is possible without them to sacrifice anything of the things that they believed in. And I told them with this presentation, I did like a short presentation, another moment of my career inside of the company, where I started creating these magazine covers, and I told them, I think that we can see Hadid, and people can perceive Hadid as a company that can be actually a real innovator in the area of sustainability, not only on the way that we build things, but also on the way that we can envision the world. And I can tell you, if we start doing this thing today, we are just not going to be a company that has been changed from the inside out to deliver sustainability and net zero. But we are going to change the rest of the industry, because if someone can see that we are doing it, everybody else will do it, because that's something that we can achieve. And my prediction is that before 2030, I think that this company will start delivering every project systematically with net zero targets. No reduction, but net zero. Even if the clients are not asking for that, it's our goal and our task to really help them to understand that this is necessary. Even if the brief is not asking for that, we need to do it. And that's something that we really need to convince everybody, that net zero is not an option. It's something that we need to embrace. And if we change as a company, we are going to help other companies to change. And I feel targeting improvements or reductions on climate change is something that is a work that we need to do all together as a team. Not only architects, but all the companies together. We need to start doing it now. Thank you so much, especially to my sustainability team, that without them this would have been possible. Thanks.